Today I'm going to be talking about verse 3 of Ēkāṉma Pañcakam. Ēkāṉma Pañcakam is a poem of 5 verses composed by Bhagavan. It's the last work he composed in, I think it was 1947. The meaning of the title, Ēkāṉma is a Tamil form of Ēkāṭma. Atma means oneself, and Eka means the one. So these are 5 verses on oneself, the one. The implication of Ēkāṭma is that oneself is the only one. That is directly stated by Bhagavan in the last verse. He says, Epodum uḻadu av Ēkāṭma vastuve. What always exists is only that Ēkāṭma vastu, that reality or substance, which is oneself, the one. So that is the subject of the verses. Though we are one, we are the only one, it seems to us that there are many things. And Bhagavan explains that in the first verse by saying that after forgetting oneself, considering a body to be oneself, and taking innumerable births, finally knowing oneself and being oneself is just like waking up from a dream of wandering about the world. In other words, Bhagavan implies all this multiplicity we see is nothing but a dream. In other words, it's our own mental projection. Whenever we dream, we project a world, but we not only perceive that world, we perceive ourselves as a body within that world. That's why in this first verse, Bhagavan says, forgetting oneself, thinking oneself to be, or taking oneself, considering oneself to be a body. Our experience now is, I am this body, and all these other things, they're other than me. Some people think that they understand vaguely, but though we experience ourselves as a body, we're something somewhat, we're something in addition to just the body. So they consider themselves to be something within the body. That's the subject of this third verse. What Bhagavan says in this verse is, it's all one sentence. Taṉṉuvirukkat. That means when the body is within oneself, a-j-jaḍa uḍalam, taṉṉuḻ, iruppadā, taṉuṇṉum, aṉṉavaṉ. Anyone who thinks that oneself is within the body, within that insentient body, is like, I mean, he gives a comparison, cittirattiṉ uḻadu, a-c-cittirattukku kādhāra vastiram ṉuḻļuḻadac. So someone who thinks that, if we think that we are within, that we are something within this body, we are like a person who thinks that the cinema screen, on which is the support for the cinema picture, exists within that picture. So the meaning of the whole verse is when the body is actually within oneself, anyone who thinks that oneself is only within that insentient body is like someone who thinks that the cloth of the screen, which is the ādhāra, ādhāra means the support, foundation or container, what holds or supports or contains, but which is the ādhāra of the cinema picture, exists within that picture. And when Bhagavan wrote these 5, after writing these 5 verses, to make it easy for people to remember the sequence while reciting, Bhagavan made it into a Kalivemba by linking all the verses together. When he did so, he added extra words between them to form the links. So in the Kalivemba version, he extended the first clause of this verse by adding before it the compound word Satchidananda, which means existence, awareness, bliss. So that is in apposition to the first word of the verse, which is taṉ. So and at the end he also added another word, polvan, which means someone who resembles or someone who is like. That polvan is implied in the original verse, but it's made explicit in the Kalivemba. So the meaning with these two additional words is when the body is within oneself, who is Satchidananda, anyone who thinks that oneself is only within that insentient body is someone who is like someone who thinks that the cloth, which is the ādhāra of the picture, exists within that picture. So Bhagavan is pointing out, though we consider ourselves to be something limited within the confines of this body, actually this body is something that appears within ourselves. When we dream, we see a world that seems to exist out there. We see so many objects. They all seem to be existing outside ourselves and to be independent of ourselves. But when we wake up from a dream, we recognize that all those things that we saw in a dream, they weren't outside ourselves. They were all appeared only within our own mind. So according to Bhagavan, this entire universe has no existence independent of our perception of it. So it seems to exist only within our own mind. So the whole of Bhagavan used to sometimes say, the whole of the Buddhakasha, that the entire physical space, is contained within Manakasha, the mind space. And the mind space is contained within Chiddakasa, or Atmakasha, the space of pure awareness, which is what he refers to here as Satchidananda. So, this whole this body is obviously within this world. This whole world is contained within the mind, and the mind is contained within ourselves. So thinking that we are something within this body is just like someone who thinks that the screen on which the cinema picture is projected exists within the picture. That is one explanation of why Bhagavan wrote this verse. There's also another reason why he wrote this. It's closely connected. Bhagavan often used to refer to our real nature as heart. When he used the word heart, sometimes in some contexts he would refer to the mind or the will as heart, but generally when he uses the word heart, he was usually referring, I mean, we have to understand from the context, but in most contexts, he's referring to our real nature as the heart. There was, among his devotees, not everyone was able, his teachings are very deep and very subtle. Not everyone was able to understand that. Was able to understand the depth and subtlety of his teachings. So because he used this term heart, heart simply means the center. Like we say, get to the heart of the matter, which means gets to the essence of it. So the center of anything is the heart. It's used in a metaphorical way. But because he used the word heart, and because people associate, a gross meaning of the word heart is an organ within the body, but obviously Bhagavan is not referring to a physical organ in the body. People who think in yogic, in terms of yoga, the concepts of yoga, where there are different centers in the body, some such people used to ask Bhagavan, is the heart you refer to, is it the same as the Anahata chakra? That's the heart chakra. Bhagavan said no. Then where in the body is it located? Bhagavan said it's not located in the body, but the whole universe is located in the heart. But still, certain people were not willing to understand what Bhagavan was saying. So when he was pressed on the matter, he said the location of the heart in the body is 2 digits to the right from the center of the chest. That is obviously only very relatively speaking, it's only relative to the body, but heart seems to be 2 digits to right, 2 digits to right from the center of the chest. The reason Bhagavan pointed out that point is, when we refer to ourselves, Bhagavan used to say, if a schoolboy is, if someone asks, who can do this sum correctly, and the schoolboy says, I can, he doesn't point to his head and say, I can do the sum correctly, he points here. And if he's asked, who will run and get the newspaper from the shop, I will run, he doesn't point to his feet. So we all experience this point in our body as somehow the center of ourselves. And we can see it in simple, we can see so many illustrations of this. For example, if you're walking along a street and suddenly a car honks behind you, or there's a loud noise, an explosion or something, we feel a shock here. This is the point from which, it's anyone who observes can easily recognize that this is somehow it's the seat of all our emotions. That's why we talk about, for example, being broken-hearted. Obviously that's a metaphorical term, but it's because we generally associate the emotions and the feelings as somewhere located within the chest. And the precise point is this point 2 digits to the right from the center of the chest. But that obviously isn't the real meaning of the term heart in the sense Bhagavan used it. Now we experience ourselves as this body, so we seem to be contained within this body, and the center of the central point where we seem to be located in this body, the important word is seem, is this point 2 digits to the right from the center of the chest. But this is all only seeming. Some people took this too literally, and they said, okay, when ego rises, it rises from this point 2 digits to the right from the center of the chest. That is true in a certain sense. Bhagavan explained, when we wake up from sleep, the first thing we become aware of is our body and then the surroundings. When we become aware of this body, we're aware of the whole body as ourself. But that awareness I, when it begins to grasp the body, it spreads from this point all over the body. But this is not the point where ego rises, because according to Bhagavan, all phenomena come into existence only when ego comes into existence. So this body doesn't exist when before ego rises. So this is all only relative to our false experience, I am this body. And another point is, Bhagavan said, this body is not ourself, the dream body is not ourself. Now, just as we experience this body as ourself in waking state, in dream we experience that dream body as ourself. While we're dreaming, we would take that point, if there's a sudden explosion in our dream, we would get a shock here. It would be the same in whatever body we are currently experiencing as ourself. Now we know that the body that we experienced as ourself in dream didn't actually exist independent of our perception of it. That body seemed to exist and it seemed to be ourself only so long as we were dreaming. Likewise, Bhagavan said, this body and this world, this body seems to exist and seems to be ourself only while we are experiencing this current state. So it was to emphasize, I mean, he often said the heart is not right or left, inside or outside. Everything is contained within the heart. But to drive home the point, that's another, a secondary reason why he wrote this verse. He's indirectly referring to those people who misinterpreted his teachings in that way, taking this point to be literally the heart, rather than the relative location of ourself relative to this body. So that I think
So in other words, the analogy is that the screen is the cell.
Yes, yes.
And the body
yes.
is the film.
Yes. Yes.
So we are thinking that the body is, self is in the body, which is not the case.
Yes.
Body is in the self.
Yes. But the word he uses is a-j-jaḍa. That comes from the verb dru. Dru means to hold or to contain or to support. So the a-j-jaḍa is that which it can mean the support, it can mean the container. So in the case of a screen is flat, it's two-dimensional, and the picture is projected upon it. But actually, though the screen is two-dimensional, the picture projected on it seems to us to be a three-dimensional world. But actually, it's all just an appearance on that screen. So Bhagavan says, our real nature is pure awareness, or Satchidananda. That is like the screen on which all this appears, all phenomena appear. So it's both the screen on which it appears, it's the space in which it appears. We can explain it in whatever way, but what is real is only that pure awareness. Everything else, all these other things, are a mere appearance, like a picture. And on a screen, there are so many phenomena there. Supposing there's one person walking in a vast landscape. If we take the screen to be contained within that person, when the whole picture is there on the screen, it is like taking ourselves to be something within this body. So long as we are aware of ourselves as I am this body, we seem to be limited within the confines of this body. But Bhagavan says if we investigate what we actually are, we will find that we are pure awareness, other than which nothing exists. So we have a one infinite whole in which all this appearance appears and disappears.
But at another place, he says that the self is within the heart. That famous verse of his.
But their heart doesn't mean the place in the body. Their heart, Brahman is itself the heart. Again, it's metaphorical, because what Bhagavan is talking about, when we're talking about Brahman or about the heart, we are talking about something which is beyond all, beyond mental conception. So whatever is said about it is metaphorical. We shouldn't take things too literally. Like in that verse he says, that Hridaya Guhara Madhye, that it is as if there's a heart, and in the center of it there's Brahman. Then that makes Brahman a very small thing. But, yes. But actually, that heart is Brahman. It's a metaphorical way of explaining it. That is, their heart means in the center of ourself is Brahman. But actually, Brahman is both the center and the space in which everything is contained. So we can't limit it within our conception. That's why often these things are described metaphorically, but some people take the metaphors too literally. Because it's a very, very subtle subject that Bhagavan is talking about. And we can get the clarity of understanding only by putting what he taught us into practice. That is, the more we turn our attention within, the more we surrender ourselves, the more clarity will shine forth from within, and the more we will understand the inner meaning of his words. Otherwise, it's easy to misunderstand. Any words can be misinterpreted. Bhagavan himself said, during Bhagavan's lifetime, a commentary was written, supposedly on a Sanskrit on an incorrect Sanskrit translation of uڵadu, and it was published by the ashram in Sanskrit, Tamil, and English. So Lakshman Sharma said to Bhagavan, shouldn't you openly, because Bhagavan had already explained how this was all a misinterpretation. So Lakshman Sharma asked Bhagavan, why don't you openly why don't you tell the management not to publish this book? Because if they publish it, if your own ashram publishes it in your lifetime, people in future will think you've approved this. Bhagavan simply said, according to a purity of the antakarana, that's according to the purity of the mind, the same teaching reflects in different ways. If you think you can write a better commentary, you can write your own commentary. So people have understood Bhagavan in many different ways, but if we want to understand him correctly, we have to put it into practice. And the more we put it into practice, the clearer it will become. Because what Bhagavan has taught is actually extremely simple. But we require a certain simplicity of mind and heart in order to understand it correctly. That simplicity we achieve by self-investigation and self-surrender. Because the ultimate truth is Advaita, non-duality. That is, ekam eva advitiyam, one only without a second. What can be simpler than that? But our minds are very complicated, so we have to simplify our understanding. The simpler our understanding, the clearer everything will be.
One way of understanding this is that Brahman or Satchidananda is both everywhere.
Yes.
Sarvavyapi.
Yes.
But also in your heart.
Of course, of course. If it's everywhere, it can't but be within you. The screen is everywhere in the picture. The screen is there. Yeah. In each point in the picture, it's there. But it's not in the picture. The picture's only in it.
Any questions?
Oh, yeah.
We do feel we're identified with the body.
Yes. Yeah, that's our experience, yes.
And I notice that most strongly if I'm not well. I say I'm ill.
Yes.
And I want this illness to go because I want to feel better.
Yeah.
But that's not true, is it?
No. Even when whether you're ill or not, where are you? You're not here, you're there, aren't you?
Yes.
So we all feel our actual experience is I am this body. But though this is our actual experience, it is an illusory experience. Because if this body were what we actually are, we couldn't be aware of ourselves without being aware of this body. When we're dreaming, when this body is supposedly, generally we believe, but the body is sleeping on the bed, but we are dreaming some other world. As we take in the dream, just like we experience this body as ourself now, in dream we experience some other body as ourself. So are we this body or that body? According to Bhagavan, we are neither. Both are our own mental projection.
When I look for where my feeling of I is,
yes,
it feels more sort of towards the emotions, somewhere thought, emotion.
Yes, but it's not. The emotions are part of the person that we seem to be. These are all phenomena. Our desires, our hopes, our fears, our everything, all emotions, and then all passions, they're all phenomena experienced by us. So we are the perceiver, they are things perceived by us. So we are not anything perceived. We are the perceiver. But in order to, it's fine to say this in words, but still our experience is I am this body, I am this mind, I'm the one who is thinking, I'm the one who's feeling this and all that. In order to know the truth of ourselves, the only way is we have to withdraw our attention from all other things and turn it back towards ourselves. But in order to do that, because if we turn our attention back towards ourselves, the ego that now experiences itself as I am this person will be dissolved. And what will remain is just pure awareness. Pure awareness means awareness that is just aware, not aware of anything. So we have to be willing to let go of everything, to surrender everything, to give up all our desires and attachments for anything other than ourselves. Because we are not yet willing to surrender ourselves completely, it seems difficult to be constantly attending to ourselves. Our attention keeps on jumping out, trying to grasp other things for support, because we're not yet ready to surrender ourselves. But the more we practice this, but slowly, our desires and attachments will be weakened, and our love just to be as we actually are will increase. So this is how we go deeper and deeper in this path. So practice is absolutely necessary, because it's only by practice that we can wean our mind away from all its desires and attachments. We're always aware of ourselves, but at the moment we're aware of ourselves mixed up with this awareness of the body. We cannot distinguish ourselves from this body. We're vaguely aware, no, I'm not this body, but still we seem to be so rooted in this body, or at least we're something located in this body. So all these limitations, we've imposed these limitations on our pure self-awareness. So only by persistent practice, trying again and again to turn our attention back to ourselves, trying to see what we actually are, slowly all these desires and attachments drop off, and we're able to go deeper and deeper within, until eventually, to explain this another way, now at present we are facing outwards. We've got to turn back 180 degrees, away from all other things, back towards ourselves. When we're practicing, we may be turning 10 degrees, 20 degrees, 90 degrees, 170 degrees, whatever. But until we turn 180 degrees, there's still a lingering awareness of things other than ourselves. And so long as we're aware of anything other than ourselves, we are not aware of ourselves as pure awareness, which is what we actually are. So we need to turn the full 180 degrees. The more we practice, the more we will be able to turn, the more we'll be able to leave aside awareness of all other things and just be aware of ourselves.
You use the phrase, I think, self-surrender.
Yes, because we cannot investigate ourselves without surrendering ourselves. We cannot know what we actually are without surrendering all that we seem to be. So the very... Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Surrendering, who are we surrendering to? Are we surrendering ourselves to ourselves?
Yes. We are surrendering the ego, which is what now identifies itself as I am this person, to what we actually are.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
If we let go of everything else, what remains? Ourself alone. So that's what surrender is. It's letting go of everything, including the ego that identifies itself with all these things, the ego that perceives all these things.
I feel like I'm protecting that ego.
Yeah, we all are, because we're not yet ready to let go. But slowly, if we persevere in this practice, that willingness to let go, that willingness not to be perturbed by whatever happens, it does come. But it's a gradual process, and it can also sometimes be quite a rough, quite a stormy process. There are times when we seem to be in a relative calm, when we seem to be unaffected by things. But then suddenly something will happen that will press our buttons, and we get affected. It happens to all of us. So but this is, anyone following the spiritual path will be experiencing these things. So until we reach the safe harbour, until we return home to where we belong, the struggle continues.
So when you reach that place, can you stay there like 24 hours?
When you reach that place, you cannot leave there.
You cannot leave there?
You cannot leave there, because that place is just pure awareness. It's what we actually are. Now we seem to have risen as ego, so we seem to be separated. But once we experience ourselves as that, we will know that we were always that, and we had never left that. So that's why we have to be ready to surrender everything, because until we are willing to let go of everything, we will not be able to experience that. Once we experience that, there'll be nothing for us to hold on to ever again.
But when you're faced with challenges, like,
You won't be.
will it be, are you going to come back to those and then
No.
to the awareness, or how does that work?
These are, what Bhagavan has taught us is something extremely radical. So we are always trying to understand what he is saying in terms of our experience. But Bhagavan often used to say, in this path, some people say, but in order to gain, in order to know yourself, you need to study a lot. And you need to study all the Upanishads and all these sacred texts and everything. When Bhagavan talks about this, he said in this path, it's not a matter of learning, it's a matter of unlearning. So we've got to slowly, slowly give up all the ideas and preconceptions we have. One point where people often get confused. Bhagavan was there for 54 years. He was in, he's supposedly at the age of 16, he had the death experience, he attained enlightenment. Then for 54 years, he was living in Tiruvannamalai. People saw him as a person. And as a person, he had a body, he had a mind, he was answering questions and everything. But Bhagavan said, all this is only in your view. In my view, I'm just pure awareness. He didn't quite say it in those, he didn't quite say it in those terms, but that is what he clearly implied. So we mistake the jnani, the person who knows, not even, our language fails us. Because we talk about, and what is a jnani? A person who knows themselves. But if they know themselves, they're not a person. If they're a person, they don't know themselves. If they know themselves, they're not a person. So that's why Bhagavan said, for those who are in that, who've achieved that destruction of ego, they're not aware of anything other than themselves. So who can or how to conceive what their state is? So it's beyond our mind. But one thing we can be sure, but our goal is pure awareness. Once we achieve that goal of pure awareness, there is nothing other than ourselves. There's nothing that could ever come to disturb us. But we see Bhagavan as if he's aware of the world and everything. It's all true in our view. And as a person in our view, he had such forbearance. Nothing could disturb him. When he disturbed the hornet's nest, he allowed the hornets to sting his thigh. And they didn't sting any other part, because it was the thigh that had done wrong, so Bhagavan said, let the thigh take its punishment. That would have been excruciatingly painful, but he was unaffected. Towards the end of his life, he had sarcoma, which was a cancer growing on the nerve. So extremely painful. He was unaffected by it. When people are, Bhagavan, aren't you feeling pain? He said, yes, there is pain, but it's not other than me. But even, I mean, that's Bhagavan as we see him. But even that person with so much forbearance and so much love and everything, that is not Bhagavan. That's not what he really is. That is what he really is, with in some inexplicable way shining through that person. But what he actually is the ocean of pure awareness and infinite love and infinite happiness. That's why love was seen in all his actions.
I think when you reach there, you'll disappear, you won't exist.
You won't, not as the person you seem to be, no. You alone will exist.
As an individual,
yes,
won't exist.
yes.
Have you actually tasted that already?
If there's an I to say I have tasted that, that's a lie. Bhagavan, in one place Bhagavan says in uḍalam, he says, Uṇādal means becoming food is seeing. That means only when we are completely swallowed by pure awareness, when we're lost completely, then only have we seen it. And then there's no I to say, I have seen. There's a saying in Tamil, those who have seen will not say, those who say have not seen.
Sorry.
No, certainly. We're here to talk. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any indications on your way going? Is there any signs that, do you have any feelings or experiences to let you know that, yeah, you're going in the right direction?
Not really, because any sign is something other than ourselves.
Okay.
So it's impossible for us to tell how near or how far we are. But Bhagavan did say, in some context he said, the only sign of progress is perseverance. The reason he said that is, the more we persevere in the practice, the more we have love to know what we actually are, the more we will persevere in the practice. So to the extent that we are persevering, to that extent we know we are making progress. Some people have all sorts of experiences on the path. People sometimes have feelings of kundalini rising or visions, all these things. These are all phenomena, these are all distractions. Some people, according to their destiny, these experiences come. But whatever experience, Bhagavan's advice is, whatever appears, to whom does it appear? We need to be constantly turning our attention back towards ourselves. So no experience is important. If we have any experience, to whom does it come? If we have no experience, who is feeling the lack of having any experience? So we have to, we want to know the truth of the experiencer, not to have any experience. Sometimes that state of pure awareness is described as an experience, but that's just because of the shortcoming of words. It's not an experience like we have experience. It's not an experience, something that appears and disappears. It's something that is ever there, always there in the background, like the screen in the cinema picture. Whether the picture appears or not, the screen is always there. This pure awareness is the screen on which all this appears and into which it all disappears.
Perhaps one is, when one is on this path, one is more at peace. Definitely. Anything that happens.
This is actually the most, what can be more pleasant than self-surrender? Because the more we let go, the less we are troubled by things. So yes, peace is definitely, it doesn't mean that we'll always be peaceful. There will be still things that disturb us, but generally speaking, we'll be happier and more peaceful to the extent that we surrender ourselves.
We don't react to things.
We don't react to things, yeah, exactly. So we are so fortunate to have been given such a simple and such a pleasant path by Bhagavan. All we have to do is let go. What can be easier than that? The only problem is we're not willing to let go. But to the extent that we do let go, to that extent we'll be happy and peaceful.
I think what you said is become spectator rather than a participator.
Yes. But not even, well, in a sense, yes, but rather the spectator is seeing the scene. So long as we see the show, we are still to some extent involved in it. If we want to be completely detached from the show, instead of seeing what appears, we have to see the one who is seeing. So the spectator has to see itself.
So there's got to be an essence of an attempt to see beyond the participation.
The only way to see beyond is to see yourself, because you alone are beyond all this.
But we already know we are that.
That's a concept. We know it conceptually, but it's not our actual experience. I, Michael, know I am that. What does that mean? Is Michael that? No, it is.
You're not even Michael.
Exactly, exactly. But my experience now is I am Michael. I'm sitting here, not there. I am Michael, you are Mary. There's that difference. That is our actual experience. So long as we are this side of
we're trying to go beyond.
We're trying to go beyond that. The only way to go beyond that, we cannot go beyond that by looking outwards. We have to look back within, look at ourselves.
But inactivity, this is what worries me. As soon as you become action, as soon as you take action, you're participating.
What is acting? There are three instruments of action. There's mind, speech, and body. So long as we are aware of ourselves as this mind, speech, this mind and body, we will experience ourselves as the doer of whatever actions. Even when we're not doing anything. Now I'm not doing anything, I'm just sitting here. I am sitting. We're still in identification even with the non-action.
Yes.
So that identification has to be broken. The only way to identify that, to break that identification is to turn back within, to face ourselves, to see who is the seer.
So basically what we're trying to do is to disengage with who we think.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. Disengage with everything.
Which implies non-participation.
Yes, non-participation. But we, so long as we experience ourselves as the body and mind, we are participating. Even if we're just sitting here listening, that's a type of participation. Even if we're just spectating, witnessing, there's still a participation.
So there's a missing element here. I'm not sure what it is.
Well, no. Well, nothing is missing.
Dare I say passion? Passion?
Love, yes, definitely. It is sometimes said, in order to succeed in this path, we must have so much passion. If your hair was on fire, with how much passion you would rush to put your head in water. We should have so much passion.
I'm not sure if that's right, actually. I don't know.
That's just an analogy, but it is. We have to be so serious about this. We have to have all-consuming love. Because so long as we have love or liking or interest in anything other than ourselves, we are not ready to let go.
But we are love.
Of course we are love, yes. Yes, love is the sole reality. But now that love is distorted as I like this, I dislike this. That is, the likes, dislikes, desires, attachments, hopes, fears, all these are a perverted form of love, a distorted form of love. But the reality is only love. But to know love as it is, we have to know ourselves, because we are love.
And a good indicator, like the lady was saying, when we get disturbed, is that we're not.
Yes.
We always are, but we're not.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so if I'm understanding you correctly, is like, for instance, if we are disturbed or something shows up, right? And how to investigate is to go within, because once that thing shows up, it's the ego that rises first.
Yeah.
To react immediately
Yes.
whatever that is showing up.
Yeah.
So, for you to not attach yourself with the ego,
Yes.
is to fall back.
Yeah, turn back within. Yes.
And let the ego also come up, but you just be there?
Well, it's important to understand the nature of ego.
Right.
Ego rises by being aware of things other than itself.
Right.
If ego tries to turn its attention towards itself, it subsides and disappears. Because it has no substance of its own. So long as it's seeing other things, it seems to exist. If it turns back to see itself, where is ego? What is there is only pure awareness. Yeah.
Because sometimes we have the feeling like maybe something really gets you upset and you just want to react.
Yeah.
It's the immediate action, the ego that shows up.
Oh yes,
So,
yes.
like naturally, like a quick reminder is who is that? Like, just to, fall back to react in a different way, because the ego will, of course, will let you answer immediately to what it is that you want to do.
Yes.
So then, in order not to act like the ego, you just fall back and just allow yourself to just dissolve within and just allow everything to actually come out.
Exactly. But though we understand all this in theory, and though sometimes we seem to succeed, we all experience times when we fail. When we do react to things, when we do get carried away by things. This is inevitable. This is all part of the path. Because so long as there are desires and attachments, we cannot remain unaffected by things. We are affected. But we need to wean our mind away from its desires and attachments. If we had no likes and dislikes, no desires or attachments or fears or anything, nothing would affect us in any way. But why we're affected by things? Because I like this and I dislike that. So if this happens, I'm happy. If that happens, I'm miserable. So it's all, the problem is our own likes and dislikes and desires and everything. But what is the root of all these likes and dislikes? Do you have any likes and dislikes when you're asleep?
Absolutely not.
It's only when we rise as ego in waking or dream, but we rise along with all our likes and dislikes. So likes and dislikes, they're all part of the ego baggage. The more we practice this self-investigation and self-surrender, the weaker our likes and dislikes will become. We still have likes and dislikes, but we're less carried away by them.
So once you start feeling and experiencing that, you realize that your ego is disappearing slowly.
Yeah. It's less assertive.
But wouldn't you be taken advantage of in situations?
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Taken advantage of. You feel like you're being taken advantage of if you're not reacting to certain situations.
Okay, sometimes we have to outwardly react. I mean, there's certain situations in life demand a certain response. But the problem is we are emotionally involved in that. We need to learn to respond appropriately without being affected.
So you actually respond not in favor of you or the other, but you respond kind of in love. Something that you know that you're responding, and it's not to respond to affect the other person, because that other person too is you. So if you're affecting that person, that means you're also affecting yourself. If maybe you even react immediately, you know that the reaction that you're giving to that situation is coming out of love. That nobody's actually affected. That's when you realize that it's actually not the ego, but you're actually allowing yourself to react in that peace. In that peaceful space.
So long as we are aware of ourselves as a person, we have a certain role to play. We may be a mother or a father, a son or a daughter, husband or wife. We have a job to do. We got so many roles we play in life. We have to we have to play our roles appropriately. So, but that is not the problem. It's not the roles we play, because what is playing the role? It's the body and mind that we seem to be, has certain roles to play. The problem is we identify ourselves with that body and mind, and we have likes and dislikes. So, supposing a certain situation happens, when you've got your child is doing something dangerous, if the child's about to run back and run out into the road, you pull it back and you say, "Don't ever do that again." You have to respond in a certain way. To an onlooker, it may seem that you're very angry, but while you're doing it out of love. So we act appropriately according to the circumstances, but inwardly we need to be to remain calm and unaffected. We are not able to do so. We are affected, of course we're affected by things, but slowly we need to wean our mind away from the likes and dislikes, the cares and concerns that make us affected by things, make us inwardly affected.
And we do that by holding on to the self?
Exactly, just by being self-attentive. The more we are self-attentive, the less we will be affected by other things. But if we're always looking at other things, we'll definitely be affected by them. Because the more we give attention to other things, the more we are feeding our likes and dislikes. We can see this in so many ways. If you've got a phobia, the more you think of the thing you're afraid of, the stronger the phobia becomes. If you've got a desire, the more you're dwelling on the object of your desire, the more you're feeding that. So turning our attention back to ourselves is the key to overcoming all our desires and likes and dislikes, and eventually overcoming the root of all desires, all the likes and dislikes, which is ego. Self as ego. Yes.
In deep sleep, we're not aware of anything. So I'd like to understand about self-attention in the waking state.
Yes.
Because I have no reference to anything in deep sleep.
Okay.
What is my reference in the waking state?
Okay. We need to be clear about deep sleep. It is true we are not aware of anything in sleep. But we are aware, because now we are aware of three states, aren't we? We're aware of this present state, which seems to us to be waking. We're aware of another kind of state, which we take to be dream. And we're aware of a third state. In both waking and dream, we're aware of phenomena. We're aware of ourselves as a person, as a body, and we're aware of phenomena. In sleep, we're not aware of any of these things, but we are aware of having been in a state in which we were not aware of anything. So we were aware, but not aware of anything. That is pure awareness. So sleep is a state of pure awareness. But now we are experiencing ourselves as ego. As ego, we are not aware of ourselves as we actually are, which is pure awareness. So sleep seems to us to be a dark state. We were aware I slept, so but we've got no clear recollection of it, because if we could clearly recollect what we experience in sleep here and now, we would be experiencing it here and now, and we would be finished. So that's why sometimes it is said, if we have to bring sleep into waking, what we experience in sleep, we have to experience it here and now. Because the problem with sleep is, though sleep is a state of pure awareness, ego is not destroyed. Why is ego not destroyed? Because ego is absent. If a court sentences a murderer to death, supposing a mass murderer, if the court says he must die, but if he's absent, until they catch him, they can't apply the death sentence. Ego is like that. In sleep, Ego is absent. So it's not. So though we experience pure awareness, although we are pure awareness in sleep, even to say we experience pure awareness sounds like pure awareness is something other than ourselves. Though we remain just as pure awareness in sleep, ego is not thereby destroyed because ego is absent. So in waking and dream, or dream, when ego is present, we need to try to experience that pure awareness that we experience in sleep, because only when ego experiences the pure awareness will it be destroyed. Because as soon as ego experiences that, it's finished.
And that would mean then complete dispassion to anything phenomenal.
Yes, yes. Complete, yeah.
So who created this phenomenon like ego and the three states, the waking?
Ego.
Ego created that?
Yes.
But who created ego?
See whether there's an ego. If you can find ego, then he's a culprit, you can deal with him appropriately. There's no explanation for how ego came into existence, because if we investigate it, we find there's no such thing.
Maya.
Ego is Maya. There's no such thing as Maya other than ego.
Self-investigation, it's very tricky, isn't it? For example, if we have a thought, and so we investigate that thought.
We shouldn't be investigating the thought, we should be investigating the one who is aware of the thought.
Investigating the one who is aware of the thought.
Yes.
So we investigate the one, but how to get deeper into that?
By persistent practice. Because as I said, it's only the more we practice, the more our outward going tendencies, our likes and dislikes and everything, the weaker they will become, and the more we'll be willing to subside within. But there is only one obstacle to subsiding within, that is ourself. We are resisting. Though we sit down and say, I want to attend to myself, we don't actually want to. We want to a little bit and then no, that's far enough. So we keep on retreating from the brink. We are not yet ready to throw ourselves over the cliff because of our desires and attachments.
It's very tricky, isn't it? I mean, like sometimes I try to practice it, but it seems you can't really practice it. Because so I have the thought, maybe, and then I say to myself, well, okay, who is aware of that? Because the witness is also the ego, right? So you need to go beyond the witness.
Well, the witness needs to witness itself. In other words, we need to turn our attention back towards ourselves.
Yes.
If we take it like a meditation, in meditation you try for a certain 20 minutes or half an hour or whatever, you try to focus on one thing. If we take it like that, it will seem that we're failing. Because we cannot maintain steady self-attentiveness. Because self-attentiveness is putting our head on the block. We're not yet ready to put our head on the block. So every time we turn back, there's an urge to jump out again. So this practice is constantly turning back. However many times our attention jumps outwards, we try to turn it back within. So it's quite different, though sometimes Bhagavan referred to this as swarupa dhyana, meditation on oneself. It's actually quite different to a normal idea of meditation. This is a very it's not even quite possible to put in words, because I won't say a very active or a very dynamic process, but that's misleading because it sounds like it's a doing, but it's not a doing. But it's an investigation rather than a meditation. We are looking for something. We're trying to know, who am I? So we're constantly trying to look within. The more we try to look within, the more, at every moment we have a choice. Either we attend to other things, or we attend to ourselves. Every moment that we, even for the even for a second, if we attend to ourselves, at that time, we have chosen to attend to ourselves rather than to other things. So the urge to attend to other things is to that extent weakened. So the more we practice this, the more our desires and attachments will be, it may not be immediately perceptible, but they are slowly getting weaker and weaker. So all that is necessary, all of us have failed on this path. None of us have succeeded, because if we'd succeeded, we wouldn't be here. But we need to keep on trying. The more we try, the success lies in trying. Doesn't matter how many times we fail, because that failure is also part of the process. So all we need to do is just keep on trying. So the ultimate success will come eventually. We need to be patient.
When you say desires and attachments, does that refer to fears as well?
Yeah, it's all. I mean, everything that drives our mind outwards, likes, dislikes, desires, attachments, hopes, fear. Fear is the flip side of desire. If you have a desire for something, if you have a desire to, we all have a desire to live, so we fear death. We always fear. If I have desire for money, I'll fear to lose my money. If I have desire for fame, I'll fear to be put to shame. So for every desire, there is a corresponding fear. And if we had no desire, there would be no fear.
There is another aspect.
Yes.
Teresa of Avila.
Sorry?
Saint Teresa of
Yeah. Yes.
said, the light reveals itself to itself.
Yes, that's absolutely right, correct. But
So you can't force
no,
anything.
we're not forcing, we're letting go. When we turn our attention back towards ourselves, we are surrendering to that light. And when that light swallows us, the light will reveal itself to itself. But the very swallowing us is the revelation of the light to itself. So surrender is absolutely essential. And complete surrender can be achieved only by turning our attention within. Because so long as we're turning our attention outwards, we're still grasping things other than ourselves. So self-investigation and self-surrender are one and the same thing. We may be able to partially surrender without self-investigation. We can slowly wean our mind off our desires and attachments by thinking, oh, this is a passing show. What upset me 10 years ago, I've forgotten about now. So what's upsetting me now, I'm going to forget about. We can in so many ways discriminate, and we can think, oh, this is the will of God, thy will be done. We can, in so many ways, we can let go of our desires and attachments. But so that is partial surrender. But in order to make the surrender complete, who has all these desires and attachments? I do, that's ego. So we need to let go of ego itself. We need to cut the very root of all desire and attachment. And that can be achieved only by turning our attention within.
So really, basically what we're saying here, I think, is that you've got to beat the hell out of ego.
You've got to what? Beat the hell out of ego. How to beat the hell out of ego?
To show ego that it doesn't matter.
There is a very easy way to beat the hell out of ego. Just watch it. But one thing ego doesn't want is to be watched. Because ego is very stealthy. It does all its mischief when we're not watching it. When we watch it, it hides. Because it has no real existence of its own.
So ego doesn't something like being watched, this is what you're saying.
Exactly, exactly. That is why when we turn our attention within, ego keeps on trying to jump out again.
Ego absolutely revels in being marred.
Sorry?
Some egos, most egos, all egos love to be admired and to be
That is, ego identifies itself with a person and loves that person to be admired. Because ego is always looking outwards. So long as I'm aware of myself as I am this person, I'm looking outwards, I'm looking away from myself. But this body is not myself. It's an identity, I identify myself with this body, but this is not. But when we look at ego itself, look at the I who says I am this body, the I that is aware of itself as I am this body, it will hide. Bhagavan says, Tedina loktum pidikam. If sought, it takes flight. It's like, supposing you're walking with a child on a path, and it's a bit dark. I mean, you see a rope there, but child mistakes it to be a snake. Supposing you tell this child, okay, that snake is more afraid of you than you're afraid of the snake. If you want to frighten away the snake, all you need to do is look at it very carefully. If a child looks at it very carefully, oh, it's just a rope. So the snake has been frightened away. So exactly the same with the ego. Ego gives all trouble so long as we don't look at it. When we look at it, there's no such thing to be found.
I think we're talking here about who is looking at it.
Ego is looking at itself.
Can I go back to what we were talking about?
Yes.
To be honest, I have a lot of anxiety with them.
Yes.
It's not about anything in particular.
Yeah.
So I sit here and I say to myself, who is aware of the anxiety?
Mm.
Well, that's the ego asking the question, isn't it?
Yes.
And I kind of find a space inside, and then I try to go deeper inside. But then I'm stuck. I don't know where else to go.
Well, there is nowhere else to go.
I'm just trying.
Yeah. No, I understand. I understand what you mean, but it is.
It is supposed to be investigating. What am I?
Well, we're investigating by looking very closely, by observing. The more keenly we look at ourselves means, of course, I'm using it in a metaphorical sense. The more keenly we attend to ourselves, the more we clearly become aware of ourselves in isolation to all that we now take ourselves to be. Now we identify ourselves as a certain person with certain anxieties, hopes, desires, all these things. It all makes up the person that we seem to be. But we are something separate from all that. Because all these things appear and they disappear. But whereas we have a screen, we remain in the background as the awareness in which all these things appear and disappear. So we're trying to separate ourselves. And we separate ourselves by withdrawing our attention from other things, by focusing it on ourselves. That is, the more keenly we attend to ourselves, the more other things recede into the background in our awareness.
So if you take that example that I gave you, am I just being too specific?
No, it doesn't matter whether it's anxiety or whatever it is, anything, it doesn't matter. There is something that is aware of all these things. What is it that is aware of all this? I'm not asking that as a question for an answer. I mean, that is what we need to be. And it's not even a matter of sometimes asking ourselves may be a prompt, but the actual investigation is not asking ourselves, but looking at ourselves.
What does that mean, looking at ourselves? I mean, how do you look at
Okay, it's, as I say, it's very difficult to put in words, but we are always self-aware. You agree you're self-aware. You're aware I am. But generally, because we are more interested in other things, we are attending to other things, so other things loom large in our awareness, and though I am is always there in the background, it's somehow overlooked. So that I am is the self-awareness. So generally, there's never a moment when we're not self-aware, but generally we're negligently self-aware, because we're more interested in our awareness of other things than in our awareness of ourselves. Instead of being negligently self-aware, we try to be attentively self-aware. That is the same self-awareness, but we try to, when we say attend to it, it sounds like it's an object of our attention. So rather than saying attending to ourselves, I feel it's better to say being self-attentive or being attentively self-aware. Beyond that, I don't think words can go. I mean, words are just clues, just pointers. But the only way to learn to investigate ourselves is to try to investigate ourselves. Just like if you want to learn to ride a bicycle, you can read all sorts of books about balancing, about physics and all these things, but you still don't know how to ride a bicycle. The only way to learn to ride a bicycle is to get on a bicycle, fall over, get on a bicycle again, fall over. And slowly, slowly you get the hang of how to balance on the bicycle. It's like that. It's by trial and error. That's why it is an investigation. In any investigation, when we start off, we got a vague idea what we're trying to find out, but the exact direction of the investigation becomes clearer as we go along. So it's just, if we try it, it will reveal itself. Because what we are trying to attend to is ourself, which is the original light that illumines all this, the light of awareness. So it will, it's a self-illuminating path. We just have to give it a try. And it's, as I said earlier, people think, people who are used to meditation think that we have to try to attend to ourselves continuously for 20 minutes. It doesn't work like that. It keeps on, it's like, just as to give an example, an analogy. Supposing you've got a big balloon and you want to push it under the water. You're playing on the beach in the sea, and you've got this big balloon, and you want to push it under the water. What will happen? When you push it down, it'll jump up this way. Then you push it down, it'll jump out. It'll always be jumping up. Because it's full of air, you can't push it down. But so it's like that. When we try to attend to ourselves, our attention keeps on jumping out. That doesn't matter. That's all part of the process. Because every time we try, we're getting it one step closer. So our attention keeps on slipping away towards other things, but we try gently, gently to bring it back, to cajole our attention back towards ourselves. And slowly, slowly, we gain the skill to do so. It becomes clearer and clearer as we go along.
The mind needs to slow down, doesn't it?
Yes, but the mind will slow down as a byproduct of this. The speed of the mind is, what drives the mind to go outwards is our desires, attachments, fears, and all these things. To slow down the mind, we've got to reduce we've got to reduce the strength of those desires, attachments, fears, and everything. The most effective way to reduce that is by constantly trying to turn within. Slowly, slowly, though the desires are still there, they're getting weaker and weaker. Though the fears are still there, they're getting weaker and weaker. The anxieties may still be there, but they're less intense than they were. Slowly, slowly, things drop off. Yes.
So, self-attending, does it mean, or does it have focus just on the sense of being? So, kind of beyond the thoughts?
Yes, but when you say the sense of being, I assume you mean the sense of your being.
My being.
Yes, yes, I am, yes, yes. That's all that we are trying to attend to. And that sense of being is the same as what is otherwise called self-awareness. We are aware of ourselves, we're aware of our existence, we're aware of our being.
Yes, I notice that is more peaceful than all the rest of it.
Yes, yes.
Kind of like
yes.
Okay.
Michael, you're talking about more than one lifetime here, aren't you?
I don't know. we cannot know. It is ever present. It's never far away. But it seems to us, but it's some distance away in time, because how far it is or how near it is in time all depends upon the extent to which our desires and attachments have already been weakened. And there are two sides of it. Weakening of desires and attachments is proportionate to, that is, as our desires and attachments become weaker, correspondingly our love just to be aware of ourselves increases. So that the love to be aware of ourselves is bhakti. The decreasing of the strength of the desires and attachments is vairagya. Bhakti and vairagya are two sides of the same coin.
So basically we're building up sort of an essence and we're trying to purify that.
Yes, what we are trying to purify, they talk of purification of mind, but the word that is, the word that is generally used in Sanskrit is chitta suddhi. Chitta, though in some contexts it means the mind in general, specifically chitta refers to the will. So it's the will we're trying to purify. What are the impurities in the will or in the mind? It's all our desires, attachments, our interest in anything other than ourselves is an impurity. Our concern for anything other than ourselves is an impurity. Ourself means just the I.
So this chitta, whatever it is a continuous process. I take it with me when I
well, it's not continuous. As soon as we rise as ego, we identify ourselves with a body. Bhagavan clarified what he means by the term body is not just the physical body, because we're never aware of a dead body as I. It's always a living body, and we're never aware of a sleeping body as I. It's always an awake body. So, along with body, there's a body, there's the life, there's the mind, there's the intellect, and there's the will. These are what are called the five sheaves. The subtlest of the five sheaves is the will. That's why it's called Karana Sarira. It's the causal body. It's because everything else is just an expansion of our will.
So the will is a continuous process then, is it?
It's continuous in waking and dream, but
I mean in life, the next life.
Yes. But so this is why any progress you make, supposing you are making spiritual progress in this life, but you don't reach the end of your journey, whatever progress you've made gets carried on to the next life. Because the purity or impurity of your mind is the one thing of your will is the one thing that you take with you.
It's not the mind, it's the will.
The will, okay, yes, but it's always. I mean, we don't. Will is a part of the mind. If we want to discriminate, if we want to distinguish it, yes, okay, it's the will. It's the will.
Because the mind comes from outside.
Nothing comes from outside. It all comes. The will contains all the vasanas. The vasanas are the seeds that give rise to all thoughts, and all this, everything we see that seems to be outside, is just our own thoughts.
We're talking memory here, the memory of who I am. That
yeah.
Rather like a race, it's the baton, so to speak.
Yeah.
then goes to the next life.
Yeah, I'm not sure what memory. You talked about this before. Okay. Well, because usually memory is we have experienced certain things in the past. Those things leave an impression in our mind. That is what we call memory. I can recall when I was 10 years old and running around playing football or whatever. That's memory. But the chittam is not the memory. Often it's mistranslated as memory. Chittam is the will. It's the storehouse of the vasanas.
You see, again, I'm going to come back to karma, which is, in my mind, will, not will, memory.
Karma means actions. The actions we do are driven by our will.
Which is memory.
So it is the will that creates the karma, and then we experience the fruit of our karmas as the destiny.
Right, okay, and that is what is transferred onto, although of course next lifetime I won't know that I was Mary.
Yeah. But all
let's have the same vasanas.
The vasanas are what continue, yes. Yes.
Unless I can dispose of them now.
Yeah. That's why that's why Bhagavan said, indirectly referring to himself, but without referring to himself, he said, in the case of those who seem to have been able to investigate and know themselves with almost no effort in this life, it is because the work that needed to be done has been done in a previous life. So in other words, when Venkataraman was born, the ego that was born as Venkataraman was already very, very pure.
Yes.
So just a little bit of effort. That's why Bhagavan also said when he was asked about how it happened to you at such a young age, he said in Tamil, "Edo vittukarai tottukarai." That's a term that's almost impossible to translate in English, but what it means is what was left incomplete in previous life, it was completed in this life. So it's a resumption of the past bhakti and vairagya.
Yes. I see it as an energy. I'm not sure that there is...
Well, yes, and the desire is the energy that's driving this whole world.
But it is earmarked as Mary, so to speak. Mary, the next life might have a different name.
Yes. But another thing, when we talk about vasanas, another thing that's very important to remember, vasanas are for whom? They're for ego. The root of the vasanas is ego. So we can, by bhakti, by surrender, by vichara, we can weaken the desires and attachment, but ultimately we can get rid of all desires and attachment, all the vasanas. We can destroy them only by destroying their root, ego.
Yes, I see that, and I mean, I weep a lot of tears if all the good work I've done, next lifetime I start from scratch.
No, you don't. It all carries on.
So, what is the body that houses this carrying on?
That is well, it goes by different names, but that is why the will is sometimes called karana sarira. Karana sarira literally means the causal body.
So that is what is transferred to the next life?
Yes. Yep.
And what do the Hindus call it? Karma?
Karana means cause. So the cause body, the causal body.
All right.
But it's not the root cause. The root cause is ego. But
which is part of the ego, surely.
It's not part of ego. But it is ego's will. The ego has no existence apart from ego.
My That is mine. What is yours? Is it the same atom, so to speak, that is part?
What is the same is only the pure awareness.
Yeah, that is universal.
Yeah. But that is the same. But so long as, according to Bhagavan, there's actually only one ego. All the other egos exist in the view of the one ego. But let us talk as if there were many egos. The ego in Mary and the ego in Michael are two different egos.
All right, so different atoms, say?
Yes. But that's only if there's more than one ego. That's talking. Yeah.
Because there is only one.
There is only one. In a dream, there's only one dreamer. The dreamer dreams itself as a person in its dream. It sees many other people, and it sees, all these other people are seeing my dream world just as I am.
They are my creation.
Yes, but all the other people in the dream seem to be seeing the dream so long as we're dreaming. When we wake up, we realize, those other people are just our own mental projection. I alone saw that dream.
When you wake up, they all disappear.
Yes. Not only all the other people disappear, the person we seem to be, that person also disappears.
Maybe I need to have to say.
I'm still stuck about the dream. When you dream and it actually happens, it materializes. I'm still stuck.
When you say materializes,
Yes.
the whole world is a materialization of your thoughts. I mean, the whole world is nothing but thoughts, actually. In a dream, we seem to have a physical body in a physical world.
Yeah.
It all seems very physical, so long as we're dreaming. When we wake up, we recognize it was all mental. So the world we see in a dream is just our own thoughts. According to Bhagavan, this is also just our own thoughts. The seeds from which thoughts sprout are what are called vasanas. Vasanas means that's the seed form of our likes, dislikes, desires, attachments, and so on. These are what sprout as thoughts and appear as all this world. The one whose vasanas are they? They're ego's vasanas. So ego is the one who has projected all this. Ego is the dreamer. Because it's the same dreamer, the dreams you have at night is the same dreamer as the dreamer who's dreaming this dream. So if you dream something and then you experience something similar the next day, that is because they're all projection of the same vasanas. Neither is, when you say materialize, it sounds like you're making it becomes real. But actually it's not. This is as much a dream as the dream you have at night. So if you dream something at night and then experience it later in this state, what you've experienced in one dream, you're now experiencing in another dream.
I want to find out what if you have a dream and then it materializes in somebody else's reality, meaning you had a dream about something.
Yes.
About somebody.
And then
it happens to that person.
It happens to that person.
In a dream, we see many people. And it seems to us, so long as we're dreaming, that every person we see in our dream seems to be seeing the same dream world. The same is the case now. But in a dream, there's only one dreamer. This present state, there's only one dreamer. Who is the one dreamer? The one who is seeing the world.
I get it.
So, for example, you are seeing Michael. Michael is just one of one of your dream characters.
That makes sense.
But this is what people find most difficult. It makes sense, but it's difficult for us to accept. Because we're so attached to our life in this world. We want to believe that all this is real. It's because we want to believe that this is all real, it's so difficult for us to turn away from it. Why we want it to be real, ultimately, it's because this is what sustains ego. If we saw through all this, actually, I mean, now we conceptually can understand it, but if we actually saw it, it would no longer hold its attraction to us. The fact that our mind is still going after this world means, though we understand in theory this is all our own mental projection, it's all a dream, in practice we still are taking it to be real. That's why we get upset, that's why we get agitated, that's why we were worrying about the bills, we're worrying about whether we're going to lose our job, we're worrying about our children, we've got so many things to worry about. We're worrying about the state of the world.
Right. Meanwhile, we are the creator of all of it.
Of all of it, yes.
You are the creator. You are. It's all good.
It's never ending, right?
It is. It has an end. When you wake up. Not the temporary waking, because now now we wake up, we dream at night, and then we wake up from our dream into this dream. We're waking from one dream into another dream. We need to wake into the state of pure awareness, which we will do only by knowing ourselves as we actually are. So only when we end, that is, when we as ego come to an end, all this will come to an end. Until ego comes to an end, it'll continue dreaming one dream after another.
In that dream world, nothing is really very detailed.
Yeah.
There's more situations, emotions, and whatever. There's no real kind of detail. But in this waking world, you can look at anything and delve back into the history of how it came to be. From a technical point of view, or
okay, there are different qualities of dreams. Sometimes we wake up from a dream and it was so real. It takes a little while to adjust ourselves to what seems to be real. So this is a good quality dream. Some of our dreams are very fleeting. It's like a poor quality film. But whether it's a good quality, like nowadays we've got CGI and everything, so the quality of films made now in the 2020s, it far exceeds the quality of the films made in the 1920s or 1930s. I mean, in old days, if they wanted to have monsters, they had to have people dressed up in monster suits, and it all looked a little make-believe. Whereas now, it's the CGI gets it. The dragons, actually, it's a living dragon. So these are different qualities, but they're both equally films.
Okay, if I took my mobile phone, for example, and traced back the technological history of that, through Niels Bohr, Einstein, and all the rest of the guys in the 20s, and even further through back to Maxwell's equations and things, and the development of Placid, the Babylonian era, and you can take that detail right the way back hundreds of years on anything you care to look at.
Okay.
Discussion, plastic and the foam inside.
But supposing we were having this conversation in a dream, you would be saying exactly the same. You'd be saying, in this waking state, we've got our science, we've got our history, we've got all these facts. We can go to a library, we can read these things, we can open the internet, we can we can search and find out all these things on the internet. All this is there. And now in this waking state, we have our memories that go back to our childhood. Next minute we wake up and we find we were actually dreaming. A dream, while we are dreaming, it seems just as real as our present state.
What I said was, initially, is that in a dream, you don't get this kind of level of detail that you can dive into.
Some dreams you do, some dreams you do. You can, have you never had like this sort of conversation? Sometimes I have these sort of, because I'm always thinking these things, I'm often having these sort of philosophical discussions in my dream.
I don't think I've ever had a dream where I've looked at a physics book, say, and thought, that looks interesting, I'll dive into the history of that and see I'm sure scientists who are always involved in science, they have dreams of doing their scientific research. In fact, I believe some people have discoveries in their dream, and when they come back and they think about it, they're able to use it in the waking state. Yeah, no, that's happened.
Yeah.
I'm prepared to accept that this is some kind of dream-like situation that we're in.
Yes.
And that there is an underlying level of reality.
Right.
Which always not is based.
Okay. Let's think of it another way. We don't actually know now whether we're dreaming or not. But in order to believe that this is not a dream, we must have some evidence on which to base that. Because ontologically, a dream is much simpler than our usual conception of a waking state. In a dream, there is just the dreamer and the dreamer's projection. That's it. Ontologically means, do you understand the word ontological? In philosophy, ontology is the science of being or existence. So if you've got many things, that's ontologically complex. If you've got few things, that's ontologically simple. So in dream, you've just got one ego, one dreamer, and the rest is all a mental projection. This waking state, if this is not a dream, you've got many people, you've got history, you've got all these things, it becomes ontologically extremely complex. But in order to justify our belief that this is actually an ontologically complex state, we have to have some evidence. There is no evidence that we are not now dreaming, because whatever we now experience, we could equally well experience in dream. So one of the principles in science is what is called Occam's razor. It's a philosophical concept. It's called the principle of parsimony. You should always choose, any set of phenomena can be explained in a number of different ways. But you should always choose the most parsimonious, the simplest explanation. The explanation that involves the least number of entities. So the simplest explanation for our present state is that this is just a dream. There is no evidence that this is there cannot be any evidence that this is anything but a dream, because whatever you point out and say, this shows it's not a dream, you could equally well experience that in a dream. In dream, you can study history, you can study science, you can read books, you can go to libraries, you can have philosophical discussions. Everything is possible in a dream.
It never seems to be the case, really.
Sorry?
It never really is, in my experience. I don't think I've ever picked up a book in a dream and delved into it.
It depends what your mind is dwelling on in the waking state. I'm sure someone who's always reading books, I'm sure they're reading books in dreams. Someone who
the things I couldn't possibly know, but I can go and look at them, how transistors developed.
Sorry?
How transistors in integrated circuits, and how that developed from valves and discover.
You could. Why shouldn't you experience that in a dream?
Never happens.
Okay, but theoretically, is it impossible to experience that in a dream? And also, some dreams we remember more clearly than others. So to say that it's never happened is again, you're assuming that you remember all your dreams. But while you're do you agree that while you're dreaming, the dream seems perfectly real?
Yes.
Yeah.
If you're being chased by a monster, the monster is frightening, you have to run away. So, in exactly the same way, just like whatever we experience in dreams seems to be real, whatever we experience in this state seems to be real. There is nothing about this state, but there's no evidence of any sort that this is anything but a dream. It may be a better production. As I say, that's why I was talking about cinema. Some cinema productions are high quality, some are not such good quality. So there are different qualities of dream. But there's nothing about this state that is essentially different to any dream. There may be a qualitative difference, but not a substantive difference. The simplest explanation for all that we are now experiencing is this is just a dream. If we follow one of the principles on which science is based, which is this Occam's razor, we should, according to that principle, we should take the simplest explanation. We don't need all this quantum mechanics and history and evolution and biology and all these things. All that's unnecessary. If this is a much simpler explanation, the simplest possible explanation is this is all a dream.
It is a very easy way out.
Don't you want an easy way out? We're here because we're looking for an easy way out. We're stuck and we're trying to get an easy way out. What?
This is not exactly an easy way out. Everybody, I mean, how many people actually get self-realised in the world? How many people are like...
No person ever gets self-realised. Michael will never be self-realised. Because what is self-realisation? We realise that we are not a person. That is, when we are aware of ourselves as we actually are, we are no longer a person. So even to say, Bhagavan, he's a self-realized person, it seems to us. But Bhagavan is something that has appeared in our dream. And not say something very special that's appeared in our dream, because this very special thing that's appeared in our dream has pointed out to us that we're now dreaming, and it's taught us what is the way to get out of this dream. So I'm not undervaluing this appearance. It's a pure grace but appeared in the form of Bhagavan. But it's still part of our dream.
I do believe it's actually possible to achieve this state of self-realisation.
But not the person.
Well, yeah, you know, this state of...
The state of...
where you know, there is just a once.
Yeah, but
approach to felt in my experience.
Right. Okay. But self-realization. Do you agree? Self-realization is the eradication of ego. You cannot have a self-realized ego, because the very nature of ego is that which is aware of itself as I am this body. So long as we're aware of ourselves as I am this body, we're not aware of ourselves as we actually are. So when we're aware of ourselves as we actually are, ego is eradicated. Why we now feel I'm a person? Because we've risen as ego, and it's the nature of ego to always feel I am this person. So when self-realization will annihilate the ego, it'll completely cut our connection with the person that we now seem to be. So viewed externally, we can say Bhagavan was a self-realized person. But when we conceive of him as a self-realized person, we are not understanding what his state actually was. He wasn't a person at all. He was and is and always will be just pure awareness, infinite love, Satchidananda, infinite being, infinite awareness, infinite happiness and infinite love. That's what he actually is. We see him as a person. Bhagavan says, because you see yourself as a person, you see me as a person. You are not the person you seem to be. I am not the person you see me to be.
I don't doubt that this state or whatever it is exists.
Yes.
It just seems to me that this is a very real dream, too real to us.
Yes, but every dream seems to be real, because you know what? Do you know why any dream seems to be real while you're dreaming it? What is actually real is only you. But now you feel, I am this body. So because you are real, when you're aware of this body as if it were yourself, this body seems to be real. And this body is part of this world, so the whole world seems to be real. So long as we are dreaming, all that we experience in the dream seems to be real. As soon as we wake up, we immediately recognize that it was all a dream, a mental projection. Why we are able to recognize that? Because our connection with that dream body is cut. As soon as we cease to identify ourselves as that dream body, we can see that it was all just a mental creation. But so long as we were aware of ourselves as that dream body seemed to be perfectly real because we are real. And hence the whole world seemed to be real. So a dream will always seem to be real so long as we're dreaming. This is Maya.
Even science.
What?
Even science itself is a dream.
Yes, it's all
talking about duality.
It's all part of our dream.
Reality is one. How on earth do you have science when you've only got one?
Yes. Well, the true science is the science of one, the science of pure awareness.
One.
Yes.
Listen, as far as I'm concerned here, you're talking of a dream and confusing that with reality. It's science. Science deals with two.
Yeah.
Duality. That can't be real.
A seer and a seen.
Anything.
Yes.
Not two.
Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah. Yes.
Actually, do you know quantum physics? I know almost nothing about it.
Yes.
But the little bit that I read is that if you put matter under a microscope and you keep enlarging it, enlarging it, you just find space.
Yeah.
So that's just another way of saying what you said.
Yeah. I think quantum mechanics is a lot more complicated than that. But yes. Ultimately, however much we research on things other than ourselves, if this is all a dream, we are just researching on phenomena in our dream. All the knowledge we gain by our research on the phenomena in a dream all seems very real so long as we're dreaming. When we wake up,
Want to ask a question?
Can we say that this is sort of a collective dream, because it's something which we come back to every time we wake up?
yes.
And everybody, like whosoever sitting here is watching the same dream, and that's why the quality of this dream, because it's a collective dream, is much more strong than what you would see, for a few hours at night.
Yes, that is an explanation that many people give. But if we were having this discussion in a dream, you would propose exactly the same idea. So, if this is a dream, in a dream there is only one dreamer. The one dreamer sees itself as a person in that dream. It sees many other people. It thinks all those other people are perceiving the dream world just as it is perceiving the dream world. But actually in a dream, no person is experiencing the dream world. Not the other people, not even the person we seem to be. The dreamer alone is seeing the dream world. Not the person the dreamer seems to be. Because the dreamer mistakes itself to be a person, it thinks, I, this person, Michael, am seeing this dream world. And therefore all these other people are seeing this world just like me. It all seems real so long as we're identified with this body. When we wake up from a dream, the identification gets broken, And then we see the whole thing was our own mental fabrication.
But is it not like, I mean, of course, like there's Brahman and then absolute reality is Brahman.
Yes.
But then individual souls came out of it, and then those individual souls got plugged into this dream, which is called Maya.
Yes.
So, in the collective dream, it's like individual souls are there, which are projecting their own desires in this collective dream.
Yes.
And so it's like all individual souls are doing that.
If you study Advaita, you will find where many levels of explanation are given. Bhagavan said, all the explanations given in Advaita regarding this multiplicity, but one big challenge for Advaita says there's one only without a second. But there seems to be all this multiplicity. So philosophically, Advaita has to account for the appearance of multiplicity. Most of the explanations given in Advaita are according to what is called Shrishti Drishtivada. Shrishti means creation, Drishti means seeing. So first there's creation, then I see it. So all these explanations, there's so many explanations like how there are so many jivas. There's one sun, but there are many pots of water. And in every pot of water you see a reflection of the sun. All these explanations are given. These are superficial explanations. Deeper explanation is Drishti Shrishti Vada. That is, Shrishti, creation has no existence independent of our perception of it. In a dream, how all the dream world is created? Just by our perceiving it. So that is a deeper level of explanation. And ultimately, it is, if you investigate ego and find there's no ego, then there's no creation at all. That is the ultimate truth. The majority of people who call themselves Advaitins, they prefer the Shrishti Drishti Vada because it is more palatable. Shrishti Drishti Vada is more in accordance with all our pre-existing beliefs. But if we want to go deep, if we want to actually have that, the experience that Advaita is pointing towards, we have to go deeper. That is where the Drishti Shrishti Vada comes in. That is where the dream analogy comes in. The reason why different levels of explanation are given, because people are at different levels of spiritual maturity. So not everyone is ready to accept the deeper teachings of Advaita. In fact, Bhagavan's teachings, though Bhagavan often talks from the point of Shrishti Drishti Vada. For example, if someone wanted was saying about, oh, the world's in such a terrible condition, I want to do something to reform the world, Bhagavan would say, there's one who has created the world, he knows how to take care of it, leave it to him. That's pure Shrishti Drishti Vada, as if there's a God there who's created the world. But in Bhagavan's own original writings, uḻadu, nāna, and such works, he clearly teaches Drishti Shrishti Vada. If ego comes into existence, everything comes into existence, he says, in uḻadu, nāna. So there are different levels to suit different people at different levels of spiritual maturity. We have to decide, each one of us, what level of explanation is suitable for us. For many people, this dream explanation is unpalatable. So all these other explanations are given. But if we're serious about wanting to know ourselves, what is required is bhakti and vairagya. Bhakti means the love to know ourselves. Vairagya means the freedom from desire or attachment for anything else. If we have bhakti, as our bhakti and vairagya grow deeper and stronger, we'll be more willing to accept the deeper explanation, the Drishti Shrishti Vada. If we find that difficult to accept now, it's okay. We can take the Shrishti Drishti Vada explanations. That sits more comfortably with us. But as we go deeper and deeper, we will be more attracted to the simpler explanation of Drishti Shrishti Vada. The one thing about this, Bhagavan never forced anything on anyone. Bhagavan would always try to bring people to the deepest teaching. For example, people would come and ask some question. Bhagavan asked, who is seeking the answer to this? Who is troubled by this? So he tries to bring them back to dealing with the root, which is ego. But if they weren't ready to accept that, then he would go to more and more superficial levels to suit them according to their needs. So Bhagavan gives his teachings according to suit the individual. But if we want the deepest teachings of Bhagavan, if we want to go deep in the spiritual path, if we really want to annihilate this ego, then what Bhagavan gives us in Nana and uļadu. Sorry, I don't know, are you familiar with these? Nana is, who am I? Yes. And uļadu is 40 verses.
Okay.
In these works, and also, it's also implicitly numbered, even in a-j-jaḍa Pañcakam.
Okay.
In verse 7 of a-j-jaḍa, Bhagavan starts by saying, Indraham enum Indraham enum nene piruvandam. If the thought I means ego, if the thought I does not exist, nothing else exists. So Bhagavan is, even in a-j-jaḍa Pañcakam, Bhagavan is clearly pointing to his core teachings. But not if it's unpalatable for us, there are more superficial teachings that we can. I mean, Bhagavan also talked about some of these analogies like the sun and all the many pots. All these explanations are given if that is more palatable for us. But we shouldn't stop with the more superficial explanations. We should be ready to go deeper and deeper and deeper. It'll all happen naturally. This is the spiritual path is in a sense a path of evolution, an evolution of our bhakti and vairagya. I hope that maybe helped you. If you find this dream analogy a bit difficult to accept. Yeah. Yes.
In your experience, can the path of self-inquiry, can there ever be the policeman who chases the thief, or becomes a policeman of self-inquiry? In other sadhanas, you can see how you can easily get diverted.
Yes. But well, in the Bhagavan used that analogy because the thief is the ego. And if ego is doing any other sadhana, the thief is becoming the policeman. So the thief will never be caught. In self-investigation, the thief is investigating himself. Itself. So that is, ego is turning back, it's questioning its own existence. It's not, in every other sadhana, the existence of ego is taken for granted. Whereas in self-investigation, the existence of ego is questioned. Ego is questioning itself. Ego is investigating itself. So it can, there's no room. As I said, ego seems to exist so long as we're looking elsewhere. As soon as we look back to see the ego, it hides. Because it has no real existence. Yes, sorry, were you?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
That's very good, you know. That's the thief investigating the thief.
Yes.
I never thought of it that way.
Yep.
That's why it's difficult to catch, actually.
Yeah, but if the thief is an honest thief, and it investigates itself honestly, then it will it'll get caught. The very fact that we come to this path of self-investigation means the thief is beginning to become honest with itself by questioning itself.
Wow. And the thief knows that's the route.
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah. Yes.